name is John Davis. My role is Director of Service Experience. That's one of those titles that sounds a little soft, and that's because I'm pretty much a generalist, and my background really is in service design, which is a human-centered design process for looking at services and the touch points and the operating models that are impacting the customer experience. So today, I'm going to talk a little bit about why design is a strategic business partner for driving service experience. And I truly believe this, and I think it's been touched on earlier today by a number of other speakers, which I was very pleased to see there's a lot of service design that's coming into the CX space, which I think is great because it's a very meaningful framework for building better experiences for your customers and examining services and what makes up a service. So why is design so important for delivering on experience? One, it drives customer centricity. If you think about designers, a cornerstone of design is going to be empathy. And empathizing with our users, understanding their needs, their motivations, their challenges, and really trying to get into their head space. So that's something that they can really help incorporate into the culture of an organization. It's what I try to do every day in my work and make sure we're focusing on the customer and the voice of the customer. For me, it's often looking at the associates and the employees of Coca-Cola, so trying to drive what would make a great associate experience and make the company someplace where we wanted to work for the next 10, 20, 30 years. Also, designers can tell a story and they can create a shared vision. And this is really important, especially in a complex organization that has different reporting structures. If you can really get people on the same page, speaking the same language, using frameworks like journey maps, service blueprints, these can help really drive home insights and get alignment between the various stakeholders in the organization that are needed to deliver on the experience. And finally, designers are good at trying something and learning from it, validating. I come from a background in user experience design, and so validating our assumptions and testing with users, and then refining those over time is key, and that's something you can also do in the service space. So when I talk about design, I want to say it's not just your visual design. There's a methodology and there's a human-centered process. And humans, I think one of the big insights that you can see is people often don't start at the beginning of questioning the status quo or questioning what it is that their customers really need or their users really need. Instead, we like to jump into this phase here and just ideate around potential solutions. But it's really key for somebody in the organization to have the insight to step back, question what we think we know, and really develop a structured approach at how we examine the problem space. So what was the issue at Coke? I work in integrated services, which is a shared services group for the corporate office for Coca-Cola. And so what we have is essentially 6 different service areas that are serving 20,000 employees globally. And once you get into our extended system, it balloons to 700,000. What those different service desks are doing is working in different functional areas, whether it's IT, HR, procurement. They're all trying to solve those daily needs for associates and address those needs, serving them in 6 different languages across 4 different platforms. And the result of this experience is really disjointed for associates. It's really difficult. You have siloed information that's put in a knowledge base on one side of the world that doesn't speak with other systems. And so there's really a lack of knowledge that's shared between different organizations, and also an inability to really serve those needs when areas of a problem come up where someone might have to, an HR problem suddenly becomes an IT problem. So we really approach this by starting with empathy. Like I mentioned, customer centricity, focusing not only on the customer, but also the needs of the different service delivery actors. There's different employees who are providing the service. So this is something that we did on a basis with all the different support teams to understand both how they interact with the customer, as well as what their challenges are and what their motivations are. And this process is very illuminating because you can see, you can unearth where there's friction between different actors that are providing the service. This exercise helped us understand, one, where there was challenges for our frontline customer service agents, where they couldn't provide the information they needed because they didn't have access to the right systems. It also highlighted where there's breakdown in documentation across the organization for lower tiers of support to higher tiers. And then also looking at our vendors who form the higher tiers of support, we were able to see, hey, there's actually some issues with how our contracts are negotiated with vendors that prevent us from actually delivering on that service. So how do we do this? Well, you have to create a shared vision for all these different disparate functions and people working around the globe. So this is a workshop that we did about a year ago, looking at the different drivers for the service experience and thinking through what along those the journey for the associate when they're getting support, what really matters and what matters for not only that associate, but also for the service provider and the agents that are working to provide that service. So we were able to create a shared vision, pulling together all the insights, talking to over 400 associates globally in focus groups, one-on-one interviews, contextual interviews, doing research to really derive these 8 experience principles. And this is what we put in front of the organization to help them understand this is what we're headed towards. This is what our vision is for the future. And that is a culture that's informed both on who the associate is, it's personalized, but it's also a culture of learning and respect. So creating those visuals to understand what the future could be is key in helping drive alignment. And this is an example of a journey map that breaks out a specific use case, looking at the various touch points and what that experience looks like from both the associate perspective as well as the support agent, and really trying to envision what that future should look like. And we came to that because we started by first defining what the requirements for the experience needed to be. So we looked at not only how the service is delivered in the moment of the service, but also the entire journey of the associate. And we were able to define something like 80 requirements that we dubbed experience requirements. And what's key about an experience requirement, much like the double diamond that I showed early at the beginning of the presentation, is that it's a point where you can diverge and you can think of different solutions. How can you deliver that experience? How can you reduce that friction? How can you make things more seamless? And how can you do it in a cost-effective way? So this is just an example of how a journey could break down, looking at pain points, example experience requirements that then we're able to feed to our product teams to incorporate into their dev process and to assess the solutions that come out the other side. So really trying to put experience at the center of everything that we're doing. So the key takeaways that I would say for this is seek out a design leader that can think holistically and strategically. You want someone who can look at the big picture as well as sweat the details. And they're going to need to be able to collaborate effectively with your key stakeholders. That's essential. Start with empathy. Consider the needs of your customers, of your end users, but also the different stakeholders that are involved in the service delivery and make sure that they are incorporated in the process. And then collaborate with the key stakeholders. You need to make sure that that vision is shared and that everyone is aligned to your approach and the goals of the experience. And that's where a designer who can think holistically, visualize an experience, and bring the other stakeholders into the room and align with them is critical to delivering the desired end user experience and the service experience. So thanks for your time this afternoon. I appreciate it. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out. Thank you.